Hi, it's Leigh with the Brain Performance Center, and today I want to get in your head and talk about the connection between the brain and the body. And I have got the perfect person here to help me do that. I've got John Haggerty, and he's a professional football player, certainly understands the importance of the body, connection with the brain, and a motivational speaker. And how this podcast came to be is about a month ago, John called me and he said, "Hey, I'm going to go talk to these kids at this high school and I want to take some copies of your book." And I was like, "Really? Okay." And he came and he got like 20 plus copies of the book, and he took them and he left them with the students to help them understand. And I thought, what a perfect resource to leave somebody, because it is hard to be in school today. School shootings happen. It's just a very different world. And I think that there's so much impacting how our brain works. And we don't talk about that with kids. And parents don't know how to talk about that. I think parents are more focused on what they're doing with social media, as they well should be. But I think the connection between the brain and the body is so important. And tell me a little bit about how you got into that position to go speak to those kids.
Well, I've always been passionate about, helping people, and after pretty much my first NFL team, I noticed that, my coaches and people of my support system, they were like, "Hey, you'd be really great at speaking to different groups of young men and young women." And so whether it was one-off or whether it was group, I started to be requested to come and speak. And then with the NFL and the NFL Play 60, they're huge advocates of being a part of the community. So that relationship has been cultivated over years, and I find that personally, I feel that I'm very passionate about helping these young people in the same way that I was helped, and providing them with the proper resources so that they have success and they know that they're not in this alone. So, having your book was a huge resource to really start the conversation that it's more than the body. It's more than about schoolwork, but it's about what is actually going on in your brain. How do you see yourself? What's your relationship with yourself? And so I would say it started from there.
Well, and even something so simple as, because, the gut brain connection.
Yes,
I can remember in high school, I didn't want to eat breakfast. And if I did, it was something that came in a wrapper and was nice and sugary and sweet. And I had no idea
Right.
about, sugar is a neurotoxin to a certain degree.
Right.
And a little bit won't kill you, but a lot isn't going to make that brain work a lot better. So just, and I think that being able to, I know my mom always said, "You are what you eat and you
Yes.
are what you think." And in my mind, I heard that.
You can say that again. You are what you eat and you are what you think.
And I think but when a mom says it, it just goes right over their head. But when someone that they look up to, that has achieved a lot, comes out and says that and gives them, read about it. It's here like in the first chapter. It makes it more real and it brings it home. Oh, yeah, maybe I should think about what I eat for breakfast.
Yeah, I mean, it really, when we talk about the brain and body connection, it's so much more than, just thinking about one aspect. There are many aspects of what affects your brain than just maybe school. It's environment, it's nutrition. It's the way, it's self-esteem. It's the emotional component of it. It's the culture that you're around. And so we have so many factors that influence what goes on in your brain. And now, just like you said, it's not the same as it was 10, 20 years ago. I remember I got my first cell phone in ninth grade, and it was a chirp. Yes, it was a chirp. It was a chirp phone. It's like a walkie-talkie. Nowadays, kids are able to have access to a cell phone, when they're 4, 5, 6, in high school. And now social media, has everybody's attention to some respect in a great degree. And it's like it's dominating, especially if you don't have a filter and you're just absorbing everything that you see. And now it's like, well, how do I feel about this person? How do I feel about myself? Because this person is posting this and everyone is liking this. No one liked my post, so now internally I feel
Loser.
bad. Yeah. I associate, and now I'm a loser to myself when, that has no bearing on anyone's God-given talents and gifts and what they were truly created for. And now all of a sudden, because, we have this, the bad connection with the brain and the body, or the brain and the environment, now we have all these problems that we're facing in society that people really don't have an answer for, right? They're trying to answer it in other ways. But until we recognize the relationship that's going on within ourselves, it's just like the statement that your mom made to you, right?
Yeah.
It's about what you think about yourself. Then we won't see that real change. And me going into the high school to speak to those young men was very it was very exciting to do. I was very energized, and a lot of these young people don't have hope. So I say, instead of me just going in and just talking to them and just talking at them, let me actually, explain this. Let me actually give them something tangible. And a funny thing happened as I was leaving. One of the young men was in the principal's office, and in the front office, and he had already cracked it open. And the administrator, Miss Carey, she's like, "Wow, he's already into it." So he was already into chapter 1, and so
That puts a smile on my face.
yes. So it's like whether I handed 20 plus books out and one person read it, or all 20,
All it takes is one.
you never know where it's going to go from there. And so I pray that they do open it and they do start to read the books, so they can start having that internal conversation. A lot of times we have external conversations, right?
Well, and start having that conversation with your family, because brainwaves are genetic. And what you're experiencing as a young person, you don't know how to deal with it. Is this right? I don't think this is right. But you don't have any context. So as a young person says, wow, brainwaves are genetic. Mom, did anybody in your family, did grandma ever feel like this? Oh yeah. Well, then that's validating. Okay, there's nothing wrong with me. It's just what's going on in my brain. And the good news is there's all kinds of ways that you can fix that brain. And some aren't that difficult. Having someone, there's so many apps out there right now that you can use to track your mood, for positive affirmations, brain training. And brain training is not going to change the way your brain works, but it's like exercise. It keeps it, how well it is working, it keeps it working at that same level.
Right.
So as you coach people and you mentor, is your focus purely on, what do you focus on?
Well, I believe that the way we were created is not to have partially successful lives and success in one area and be suffering in other areas of our lives. So I approach my coaching standpoint is a unique one. I approach it from a holistic, complete wellness aspect because if you're financially well but you're nutritionally suffering, or if you're physically well but you're financially or mentally suffering, or emotionally, or your environment, then we have some things that are off, right? So I try to first sit down and really understand, okay, who is the person that is sitting in front of me beyond the workout that I can give you? Because sometimes you can give clients the best workouts possible, but there might be some factors, if you're not detailed in knowing who you're coaching, there might be some personal factors that are going on that is hindering them from their process, whether it be, just like you mentioned, their gut health. So it might be that they have the energy and effort and willpower to want to do better, but there may be internal factors that are going on. So I say, okay, let's put as much on the table as we can and identify and really get your philosophy of how you approach things. And then I can tell you, here's what you're doing great. Keep doing that. Here's what I would add. And here are the things that I would subtract if I want to have long lasting success. Because so much of the time, we're programmed to want quick fixes. And then after we plateau in several areas, and it's like, oh boy.
Well, and so many times, and we talk about it in the book, it's lifestyle choices. And those are what is hard to change. Yeah, I'll get to the gym, I can work out, but I've got to have my donut on the way to the gym. And then I've got to get on my phone and check my social media. And I don't have time, to eat well. Or juice, I don't have time for that. So, but I can drive through a window and pick something up.
Right.
And it's those lifestyle choices, I think, that can be, we're cutting off our own nose, so to speak.
Yes. To your point, a lot of people, they live their lives based on how the internet and social media tells them to live their lives, instead of realizing that, okay, you have these gifts, you have these talents, this is where you are, and this is who you are, you're more gifted. And so sometimes, many times, a lot of people leave so much on the table because they're trying to be something they're not and do something that, is detrimental to, brain health, body health, health of relationships. All those things are key factors in really living a complete life of wellness and having, your brain on and game on at all times.
We were talking earlier, and sometimes life is going really, really good. And something happens, and you mentioned it, when you left your first NFL team, you're like, is that the reality? But I'm never giving up. So we've got all this internal struggles when life changes, and life is going to change.
Absolutely.
All the time.
Yes.
And I think just helping, and I think when you're young, you're more overwhelmed by the change. The older we get, the more we realize, yeah, well, life is going to change. But when you're young, you don't know that.
Right.
And maybe you shut down, maybe you explode, but knowing how to deal with that. And if those 20 some odd boys were listening to this today, what would your follow-up with them be?
Well, it would be to, one thing that I wanted to do is spark the interest in actually turn that brain on to get their game on, because I wish you could have been there. I actually got to uniquely have one-on-one time with every last student. And I asked them, what do you want to do with your life? Where do you see yourself in 5 years, in 10 years? And some of them, and many of them were like, I don't know. And so, that speaks to vision and not, you know, I just don't know. I can't see that far. I don't have any hope. So from there, analyzing the crowd that I was speaking to, I want to go into an environment and motivate you, first educate you, and then motivate you. Because if I can turn your I don't know to I think I know, and if I can turn your I think I know to I know, and then if I can turn that I know to, oh yeah, I really know.
I'm going to do
That's
it.
what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so it's life is always a process and it takes time. Just like you say, nothing is permanent but change. And so knowing that, most of the responses that I got was, I want to play sports. I want to go to this school. I want to go to the NFL or own a business or do X, Y, Z. And so I said, that's great. You want to go to the NFL and you're probably a phenomenal athlete. But let's say, you kill it in high school. You're the man, you have the touchdowns, the yards, everything that you need. Let's say you get that amazing scholarship. And in your sophomore year, you get hurt and you can't play football again. Now what's your plan B? And a lot of them were like, oh, I never even thought that. I was like, now I'm not saying that's going to happen, but we always need to have more than one plan because life changes, even for myself, working from the environment that I came from, single parent household, all the way to the NFL. And in my first game, I tore a ligament in my foot against Green Bay, was out the whole season. Wait a minute. This is everything I worked for. And so learning how to deal with those things because life sometimes throw you curveballs, right?
All the time. It's going to tell you.
Many times, right? Yeah. Throw you curveballs. And it's understanding that regardless of what happens in my life, it's okay to cry. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to sometimes be angry, but not to the point to where you isolate yourself or you feel like you're inadequate because something happened to you, because what happened to you doesn't define you. And right. So a lot of times in the social media world, or is like, if this happened to you, or if you don't have this, or if you do have this, it's like, we attach a stigma to that. And now it's like the people who don't have it, they feel a certain way. The people who do have it, they feel a whole certain way about it. So
what's your goal? You've been, I know you have another school line or group in this next month to go out and talk to. Is your goal is there an age group that you're targeting, or are you just wanting to help all ages?
Yeah. From the elementary, middle school, high school, college, even adults, I coach people who are, twice my age, almost 3 times my age. So I've coached a wide variety of clientele. And I think that's the unique part about it is, someone who's, in their 30s, I'm 32. My birthday was February 5th.
I remember that.
But someone in their 40s, 50s, I'm able to coach them as well because of my experiences, because of my trial and error and my experiences that I went through. I'm able to have that credibility to coach them. And one of my clients, several of my clients are pastors. And so they lead, the church spiritually, but they rely on me for nutrition advice and physical advice, and vice versa. If it's spiritual, iron sharpens iron and things like that. And so it's like you're never too young or old to have, mentors. And so I'm grateful that they will allow me to coach them and say, okay, even though I have this space over here, I'm not too big to say I need help. And I think that's a big problem in society today. People are prideful in saying, I need help, and asking for help. And everyone wants to, I don't need help.
Yeah.
Man, let go of your pride. It's okay to ask for help, because I have leaders in my life as well. It's just like, how do you think I learned this? How do people think that I learned how to be in the very best shape? I had the very best trainers. My nutritionist was the same nutritionist who met with Usain Bolt and these professionals. I sat down with her. I picked her brain. And so talk about turning your brain on, game on. I said, and that's after Usain Bolt ran like a 9.6 for the world record. And so, my quarterback with the Patriots was Tom Brady. Locker was right across from mine. His seat, was right in front of mine in meetings. And so I allow him to coach me and mentor. And there were things both that pertain to football and pertain to life that I took from that. So, if you allow yourself to, be in, regardless of what environment you are, if you allow yourself to be humble about it and learn from those experiences, which this book can help you all navigate and facilitate some of a lot of those things that are going on, then you can get closer to, discovering your purpose and living your purpose. Ultimately, that's what I feel my calling is to help these young men to discover their purpose and live their purpose and empower them to do that. I want to be someone that when I leave from talking to you, you say, hey, I have the power to go out and do this, and I'm going to do it.
And you know what? I think that is a fabulous note to end on. And I just want to say this. I so admire what you're doing, because we've all got to give back to the community.
Yeah.
And I pledge to you 500 books for you. And my goal is that you give every single one of them away within the next 6 months.
500 books in 6 months. I got another challenge on the way. She done challenged me 500 books in 6 months. I got it. I accept the challenge.
And if any of you watching this would like,
y'all got to help me out there. She said 500.
Yeah. But I think it's just such a great way to give back to the young people and to society. So thank you so much for joining us today. And if they want to learn more about what you're doing, how do they do that?
On Instagram, you can follow me at INTHELABWORKIN. That's In the Lab Working. On Facebook, it's Johnathan Haggerty. I think I'm at the 5,000 limit, but that's up for discussion. If I like you enough, I can move somebody out the way for you. On Twitter, it's Royal_Hag. That's HAGG. So Royal_HAGG. And LinkedIn, it's Royal Haggerty. So HAGGERTY.
All right. Well, you're out there and we'll find you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.